Hola.
Hola, how are you? Genki?
Un gusto en conocerte, Vladimir.
Not bad, not bad. I'm a beginner, so go easy on me.
Yes, I will.
You are
Uh,
English teacher too, right? Spanish
yes,
teacher and English
yes,
teacher. I see. Where do
yes.
you
I
teach
am
English?
at high school.
High school.
hmm
Where are you from? Sorry, I don't remember.
I am from Peru.
Ah,
I
Peru.
live in the mountains in Peru.
I see. So you teach English.
Yes, in the school, yes, and at night shift, Spanish tutor.
Which is easier for you? To teach English or to teach Spanish?
Mm, a little easier, I think. Um, English.
Because?
Um, I think I practice more with that methodologies, some techniques.
Mm,
But when in Spanish, I have almost 2 years of experience, so yeah, it's also
mm-hmm,
a
mm-hmm.
nice experience. See,
What is the difference between teaching Spanish here in terms of methodology, teaching Spanish here and teaching English in a classroom setting?
I think the amount of students, how big is the classroom?
Of course, of course. What about
That's
in
the
terms of content, in terms of substance?
you need to switch the content into how can you um, make them like conversational. So as individual, you need to downgrade your level. Yeah, I think so. That's the important things.
Okay, so you're talking about the difference between group lessons and individual lessons. Yeah.
hmm
What about in terms of textbooks, in terms of content? What's the difference? Isn't it the same? Isn't the focus on grammar and vocabulary?
No, exactly. I will say 50-50 because as an individual, one-to-one class, the content, the grammar changes a little bit. So that's why you need to perform as a teacher and also as another student in order to make your student learn and practice. That's why it's a little different in one to one.
In a classroom, what is the focus? What do you usually talk? What do you teach, basically?
I like to teach now. The last 5 years, I started to teach in a group-based learning, so and project-based learning, and that's why the students can learn from each other. And I think that's kind of more significant in a way. So that's why it's slightly different. No? hmm
But what are you teaching exactly? Vocabulary and grammar?
No, well, my the approach here in the schools in Peru are that they try to use EFL, and so they try to make them conversational at a certain point. So they finish with a B2, B1 level at the end of high school.
Conversations, so you have like dialogues built around certain situations, like situational dialogues.
Yes. hmm
That's the
And
standard
we,
way.
yes.
So, for
hmm
example, what English at a at the airport or a
hmm
hotel or
hmm
what is like? What is the textbook like? What is the textbook about?
We use, for example, a school experience-based situations,
Uh-huh.
project at schools, trips. Like we make them. What would be the word? Transversal from the contents from other subjects, for example. So yes, because in Peru we don't have too much hours, especially the public institutions. They have in the average only 4 pedagogical hours. I would say that here that a pedagogical hour is only 45 minutes.
For a week, you mean?
Yes, 4 pedagogical hours per
A
week. Yeah.
week. That's a good amount, no? Not
Well,
bad.
if we compare to the private institutions in Peru, they have almost the double.
I used to be an English teacher in Japan until I realized that language cannot be taught. I don't think that language can be learned in a classroom setting.
Ah, yes,
I
I
don't
agree
think
on that.
language can be taught. Again, the reason I ask you, you said you focus on speaking to practice speaking dialogues. I don't think that that's effective and efficient way. As far as I'm
No,
concerned, language is a tool for acquiring knowledge. Knowledge is the product, not speaking. Speaking is a bonus. Speaking is a byproduct. Do I make sense?
of course. And you now you made me remember something. You remind me something that well, when I started when the first encounter with English, I didn't notice that I was learning English because I was reading fantasy books
Exactly.
and I loved role playing games. And Dungeons and Dragons was the first book that I got in English. So the handbook.
Your focus was the information, was the book, and language is a tool to get that information. And it's like shooting two birds with one stone. You get the knowledge and you learn the language with it. It's like a, but I usually say that speaking is a byproduct. Speaking is a bonus. Language cannot be learned in a language classroom. That's why Americans don't speak Spanish well, even though they are surrounded by Spanish, because everything they like to read and listen to is in English.
Hmm.
English gives the best entertainment, the best scientific knowledge, the best business knowledge, IT knowledge. That's why Americans suck at Spanish, even though they have Spanish speaker at every corner.
Yes.
Yes? Am I
Of
right?
course, yeah, yeah, of course, there are a lot of Spanish speakers now
Of
in the
course.
United. Uh,
So what are the Americans doing on this platform then?
I don't know. I think most of them they just want to, I don't know, maybe be ready
No, no, no.
when.
They're delusional. People who pay money for speaking are either lonely or delusional. There's no such thing as practice
Interesting.
speaking. Makes no sense whatsoever. You can't practice speaking. Speaking is a byproduct of acquiring knowledge. Speaking is a byproduct of acquiring knowledge. How do you say that in Spanish?
Ah, hablar un idioma es un producto.
No, not idioma. Speaking in general. Speaking
Ujú.
is like a side effect of acquiring knowledge, of getting knowledge. How would you say that?
Hablar es un efecto colateral de adquirir conocimiento.
Okay, collateral. Yes, it's very weird because I haven't spent a single minute studying Spanish yet. Because of my English, I can understand almost. If you were to use simple Spanish, I could understand 90%. If we were to use normal Spanish, probably I would understand 40%. Yes, it's such a close language to English, yet native speakers of English don't know Spanish. And the other way around. A lot of people in Latin America don't speak English well, even though there are such close languages, because what people like to read and listen to is in Spanish.
Ujú.
Unlike you. Unlike you who spent more time, not more time, but enough time reading in English. And I guess watching American movies and stuff like that, right?
British ones.
British one. Doesn't matter, still exposed to the language. Yeah.
Mhm.
How do you say
Yeah.
in Spanish, language is a tool for acquiring knowledge?
El lenguaje es un, bueno, idioma es un herramienta para adquirir conocimiento.
You have one life. Don't waste it.